Broken planetary tech in Elite Dangerous Odyssey will not be fixed. Frontier have stated that they've looked into the issue, it will require immense resources, and they'd rather spend those resources elsewhere. So what exactly is the problem? Well, it all comes down to the way planets are generated within Odyssey. As you can see from the examples on the screen right here, it can occasionally result in repeating patterns right across the entirety of a planet. Now, how much of a problem this is and how common it is will depend upon who you ask. Some people are very much bothered, others not so much. Personally, it's not something I have a particularly big problem with, however I fully understand why some people are not too happy about it. At any rate, if we look at Frontier's statement, I think there's a bigger issue at hand that isn't about planetary tiling, but rather about what their message seems to imply. So before I talk about that, let's take a quick look at their post. We'd like to take this opportunity to address the tiling planetary feature issue from the issue tracker. After spending some time to observe the effects of the issue while weighing up the costs to resolve it, we have decided to focus these resources elsewhere. Reducing or preventing the tiling effect would require a deep overhaul of fundamental systems, which in turn would disrupt other aspects of the game. This would inevitably take time away from developing and improving other elements such as performance, bug fixes, and new content. We cannot justify this level of change and a regeneration of the galaxy in Elite. This is unlikely to change in the future, so the issue will be closed, freeing up votes on the tracker for other issues. We'll continue to strive for the best possible experience for the highest number of players, which our current focus allows us to do. We hope you'll appreciate the reasoning behind this decision. There we have it then, planetary tiling is not going to get fixed, and the reasoning behind that is fairly sound. Although it does, well, it's quite revealing, isn't it? And let's think about that. The last sentence in particular is very, very noticeable. We'll continue to strive for the best possible experience for the highest number of players, which our current focus allows us to do. Essentially then, they have limited resources and need to allocate those according to what would work best for the highest number of players. Now we can sit here and argue all day about the nature of planetary generation, planetary tiling, and more deeply whether the Odyssey planets are actually better than Horizon planets or vice versa. But that's not really the issue at hand here. The issue is more deeper than that, more fundamental. And it all comes down to how Frontier treat Elite Dangerous Odyssey. As I've said many times before, Elite Dangerous is a live service game, and it seems Frontier are just unable to treat the game accordingly. It's no secret that live service games make vast sums of money for many different companies. Whether we're talking about the likes of free-to-play titles such as Warframe, or perhaps more expensive-to-play titles such as Final Fantasy XIV, they all have that one thing in common. The companies behind them have a very keen development focus upon the titles, as well as a very keen communications focus. Unfortunately for Elite Dangerous, it seems to have neither of these. Now, credit where credit's due. Frontier have released a number of updates for Elite Dangerous Odyssey, 11 in fact so far. They've also given a nod to Update 12, although we don't know what that will contain. The community managers have also implied that there's content for the year ahead, as well as David Braben's post about moving the story forward for the game, whatever that may entail. But ultimately, all of these are very slim pickings, especially considering where Elite Dangerous stands today. And it stands in a very precarious or very difficult position, especially for those who enjoy live service games and everything that entails. And if we're going to be reductionary, these can be listed in 3 bullet points. Regular fixes, regular content updates and new features, as well as regular deep communications from the developers. And then there's a bonus 4th point which some developers like to include, and this is a roadmap for future content. Unfortunately, Elite Dangerous suffers from a lack of all of these. Now, this isn't a doomsaying video, although some people are going to hear doomsaying anyway. Those types see doomsaying everywhere. So no, this isn't doomsaying, instead it's an observation of the facts. Frontier's latest message then gives us an insight into why all of this is, and it very much comes down to a lack of resources, meaning they have to pick and choose between fixes and new features which will please the highest number of players. I'm not entirely sure, however, how this affects the ongoing issues with communications or lack thereof. We no longer get any development updates, there hasn't been a single one this year. Frontier have also stopped the top 20 issues list. Now, this used to highlight the top 20 issues that the community had voted, and Frontier would give an update on the position of each of these. That again has completely stopped. Ultimately then, this is very much a repeating pattern when it comes to Frontier developments. That is, communications come in regularly and efficiently, and then petering out and altogether stopping, often for years at a time, and then when there's a community uproar, they all start again as a way to try and appease the player base. Eventually this all peters out yet again, and we return once again to silence. Of course, to be perfectly fair, Frontier have started live streaming again, and whilst these are good for certain segments of the community, the live streams themselves generally contain a distinct lack of information as to the development progress of the game itself and, well, its future in general. Now, at some point in the past, Frontier have mentioned that they do plan on releasing a year-ahead update, letting players know where Elite is heading over the rest of this year, but as yet, there's no sign or sight of any of that. The bottom line then for me is the message, the interpretation that I personally take away from Frontier's recent message. Although they haven't directly said this, to me at least the implication is very, very clear. Elite Dangerous development is suffering from a lack of resources. It's not being treated like a live service game, and my impression, my opinion of this speculation is that Frontier have no intent whatsoever of actually treating it like a live service game. The final point then is not so much about whether or not Frontier will fix the planetary issues. We know that Odyssey does have some planetary tech problems. They are what they are. The real deep-seated problem is whether or not Frontier are ever going to fix their approach to Elite Dangerous as a whole. Then again, maybe I'm just being grumpy and negative and you really don't agree with me. Do let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments section below. Do you think Frontier are doing enough for Elite Dangerous? Could they perhaps be doing more? Or are you entirely happy with the direction of the game and love it regardless? As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.